Welcome. Welcome to the Living in Utah live question and answer session here Thursday evening, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. I try to make it every week. This is an open forum. You're welcome to ask any kind of questions you would like. If you want to talk about the state of Utah, want to talk about real estate, maybe you just want to talk about the United States. You've got questions about the United States. Sometimes people join us from around the world. So glad to answer anything that I can. We're going to talk about a couple things happening in the state of Utah in the news this week as far as the weather goes in northern Utah. A little bit of wet. We've got a fair amount of moisture. We are at 192% for our snowpack at the current moment. Right now, the middle and the southern portion of the state is getting hit pretty heavily. Their water totals down there are looking really, really good. They have had some extreme dry conditions, which is great for the state. Right now, I was looking outside and it is raining this evening. We had a front come across from Reno. I was watching some of the news, and I-80 in Nevada was quite a bit of snow on it. So it was a little difficult driving on the roads. So first thing we've got up in some news here in Utah, Sundance Film Festival. So it has been 3 years since we have had full capacity for the Sundance Film Festival due to COVID. I believe maybe 1, maybe 2 years they did a virtual Sundance Film Festival, and I believe last year was a little more limited on the amount of people, but it's in full force coming up here, and they just want people to plan ahead, use mass transit if they can. They expect a lot of people coming this year to the Sundance Film Festival. It's a very big, popular event. I've been up there once or twice myself. It is a good time. It's definitely something worth seeing. So yeah, definitely take an outing. So if you're a baseball fan, we have the Salt Lake Bees, and they play in downtown Salt Lake City around 13th South, pretty much in downtown heart of the town. Well, they are moving out to South Jordan to the Daybreak community. All new stadium to be built. I believe construction is going to start next year or the end of this year, sometime around there. And they anticipate sometime in 2025 to open the stadium. So new stadium. And to give you a little bit of history, the Larry H. Miller Group owns the Salt Lake Bees. That group is the former owner of the Utah Jazz for many, many years. So I would imagine with their experience in the sports field that the stadium that they build will be a first-class facility for AAA baseball. I'm almost positive of it. So good news, new stadium, new location though. So yeah, if you're a baseball fan, it's good to go see Salt Lake Bees. Great time. You've also got some other in Ogden. You have the Ogden Raptors that play some baseball. Very reasonable to go to the Ogden Raptors. I've been a couple times. If you're, I'm not too sure if they're going to do this in the future, but in the past they have done. The Ogden Raptors is sponsored by a local credit union, America First Credit Union, and they've had like America First night with your America First Visa card. You can get X amount of tickets free to get into the baseball game. Great opportunity. So hopefully maybe this summer coming up, we will see a little more. So Larry H. Miller used to own the Utah Jazz. That's correct. Larry Miller purchased the Jazz somewhere around 1985. I believe the story goes he purchased part of it and then purchased the remaining part later. Larry Miller, self-made multi-millionaire. He started in the car industry. I believe and I'm not 100% certain on this, his first dealership, this was back in like the 70s. His first dealership was a Toyota dealership. And he went from one dealership to, I don't know how many. I mean, just in Utah, there's probably 14 or 15. But he operates in like 6 or 7 states, I believe. So maybe 100 dealerships, something like that. Larry Miller passed away a few years ago. I believe it was from complications from diabetes. And they've actually sold the car dealerships off. They're keeping the Larry Miller name. They sold the whole group off. And the Jazz recently got sold to Ryan Smith. Built a tech business, and I think he sold the tech business. It's been reported like maybe $7 billion or something like that. Large amounts of money. He purchased the Utah Jazz off the Miller family, and no one really thought that the Jazz was up for sale specifically. But I think what they like about Ryan Smith is that they feel he will leave the team here in the state of Utah. So Ryan Smith is from Utah. All indications are that he bought it. He would like to keep the team in Utah. And that's probably very, very important to the Miller family, I would imagine. But yes. All right. Yes, I kind of heard his story. I live in Daybreak. He was super wealthy. His wife is still alive, and they own Daybreak. Yes, they developed a Daybreak community. His wife is still alive. And a few kids. Greg, I believe it was Greg Miller, was running the Larry Miller group. And at some point, they turned it over to like a management company. So, yeah, very wealthy man, self-made millionaire. Or I guess I should say they own the land. Many exciting things happening in coming years. Yes, it'll be great. Baseball out there in Daybreak community. So I would imagine you'll see more. They'll probably build my guess is they'll build the stadium as a multi-purpose stadium. So apart from doing the baseball, they would probably hold concerts there. Other types of events also in the stadium would be my guess. They would probably build it more very similar to how the Jazz Arena is. And so the Jazz Arena is called Vivint Arena. It is going back to the name, the Delta Center. Delta Airlines was the original sponsors of the stadium. And by the way, Larry Miller paid for that stadium to be built that the Utah Jazz play in. It was not taxpayer money or federal money. He paid for the building. The original sponsor was the Delta Center, Delta Airlines, Vivint Arena, and we've had Energy Solutions Arena, different sponsorship groups. Just last week, Delta Airlines has announced they will be bringing back the sponsorship, or I should say paying the money to have the sponsorship. And it'll be called the Delta Center. And a lot of people, I make the mistake too. Many people were so used to the Delta Center that when it became like Vivint Arena, we still called it Delta Center. Or Energy Solutions Arena, we still called it the Delta Center. It's what we've known it as ever since it was built. So I like the idea it's going back to Delta Airlines. Yes, I heard that too. Shops and restaurants to be built around there, I think. Yes, probably. I would imagine so. The Miller family has a vast experience in commercial development and residential development, as you can tell by the Daybreak community. So they'll do a fantastic job. So that's fantastic job. So it's that time of year. The state legislature session has started. And, present new bills, pass new laws, et cetera, et cetera. It'll go for the next couple months. A couple of things that brought my attention. This has been talked about before. They are looking at bills to end sales tax on food. That, and the way the bill has been presented in the past, that would be food that you buy at like the grocery store, as opposed to prepared food like fast food or a restaurant. The state used to charge the full sales tax amount on groceries. Right now, our sales tax rate, it does vary by different counties a little bit, but on average, 7.25%. Groceries, I believe, is like 4 point something percent. They lowered it on groceries. There was a bill, I believe, last year also. They would like to eliminate sales tax on groceries, which I'm a big favor for. I think it hurts lower income people personally. We all need groceries. So regardless if you are low income or high income, we all buy groceries. So they're also looking at putting more resources forward for the homeless situation. One of the things they're talking about is they've got their eye on a former hotel, about remodeling that building for homeless population. And they're also looking at expanding some of the facilities that they have now to help with the homeless. So that's two big bills that caught my attention at the moment. There will be many, many bills. I'll probably bring some up as I hear about. A lot of the bills right now are what they call in committee. So they're the lawyers and everybody is formulating the whole bills. It's got to go through like a committee process before it can come to the floor to be heard. They run studies on what the cost would be if it's a bill that would have a cost attached to it, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot that the lawmakers want to view, especially on something like taking the sales tax off of groceries. How much would it, how much revenue would the state lose by doing that? So all that has to be formulated. So there's more bills that will come forward throughout the session. There's a big push again on the Olympics. 2030, 2034. A lot of the articles that I read, they're anticipating Salt Lake City getting one of those games, either 2030 or 2034. The 2031 is always a little bit controversial because we have the Summer Olympics here in LA in 2028. So sometimes it will do, they don't like to do back-to-back Olympics in the same area. So maybe 2034. But now there's a big push now. There are quite a few Olympians that are making a push to hold it in Utah because of the facilities that we have. We still have a lot of the facilities here. A lot of athletes come here year round to train for the Winter Olympics events. And so there's a push going on right now. A lot of the athletes would like to see the games come to Utah. So that's good news. I'm a big fan of the Olympics. I loved the Olympics when it was here in 2002. I'd love to see the Olympics again. It's an absolute blast. It was an absolute experience that I will never forget. So I'd love to see it again. Hello. Have you heard of Entz Home Builders in Southern Utah? Is it a good one? I have not. I have not heard of those guys. I could ask around. I know many contractors. Personally, a lot of home builders, it's just my take on it. I do a lot of new construction. A lot of home builders, it's a babysitting job. It really is. There are so many subcontractors. Not all subcontractors. I have friends that are subcontractors, painting industry, electrical industry, plumbing. But there has been, in my opinion, over the last 5 years or so, because of the boom, there's been so much work out there that people are just doing a rush job. That's the only way I can put it. And whatever terminology you want to put on it, I could say all kinds of words, but it's just sometimes sloppy work that is done. That's why I say building a new home is it's a babysitting job. So in order to get a good home, I think someone has to babysit. And a lot of times I've had that job, literally going out every single week, and then you have to write things up all the time, and you're on the phone nonstop. Hey, this got to be corrected. It's got to be corrected nonstop. So it's kind of funny you mentioned that. Good friend of mine, actually, I ran into him yesterday, and he has framed homes before. He's got a framing crew, and then he does finish work right now, but he's retiring. And they're looking at building a retirement home. And he said, I'm going to hire it out. He's over the age of 60 now. He goes, my body just can't take, I'm just going to hire it out. And I'm like, Barry, you have complained to me over the years about some of the shoddy work, and you are going to hire it out. And he goes, oh yeah, I didn't think about that, Mike. I said, it'll be a full-time babysitting job for you to get the home done right. You might as well go out there and do most of the work yourself. You're going to be out there every day. So, haven't, don't know them. Okay. I saw your comment there, and my mind got tracked on the last one. When you mentioned about Daybreak with the problems, and when you mentioned you're out in Daybreak, that's one of the first things that comes to my mind is the problems that Daybreak has had. And the way I like to put Daybreak, and this is what I tell my clients and everything like that. I do not comment on the Daybreak community problems. There are lawsuits galore. There's two sides to a story. What I always encourage people, if you're looking at Daybreak community, go to Google, you do your own research. There are articles, there's probably YouTube videos. I know there is videos from local TV stations that have done articles out there. You watch those videos and you form an opinion if you think the quality of work out there is okay for you. That's and that's what I tell most people. Do the research. But yeah, Daybreak has been in the news a lot. Let's put it that way. Kenny, hi, Mike. Fiance and I are looking to move to Utah in July. Is Sugar House a safe area to where you would feel safe letting your wife go out for a run in the area? Is West Valley unsafe? Wow. So what's hard about answering something like that is, first of all, your idea is safe and my idea is safe might be different. Okay. There is a state website, and I can't think of the website address at the current moment, but they do a report, and the report, you can break it down to cities, and they will give you the exact crime data, robberies, homicides. I can't remember all the different categories they have. And you can actually look at the number of cases and based off of that, make an opinion if you feel that is safe enough for you. So in general, when we look at national statistics, our crime rate is lower than the national average by a large amount. And sometimes when I talk about crime or crime areas, many people contact me and say, well, Mike, that's nothing like Chicago. It's nothing like LA. It's nothing like many other cities. True. But we do have crime, and what some people consider safe, other people may not consider, and vice versa. So I actually have sold a home to somebody who moved from a very large city and in a neighborhood that basically, he told me, when you walk down the street, you walk with your head down. You don't make conversation with anybody. And that's how the neighborhood was. So he was a little shocked of how, like, when we would look at homes and there'd be neighbors outside and I would communicate with the neighbors and stuff like that. And he goes, wow, it's just like so open and everything. And I'm like, well, that's how we are. And he says, no, the neighborhood I'm from, or I currently live in, you had to walk around with your head down and mind your own business. So I wish I could help give you a little bit more on that, but maybe look at some of that data, and then we can talk more about it after that and go from there. Any more questions this evening before I call it an evening? Well, I am going to call it a night. I appreciate everybody's questions. Had a great time, and take care and stay safe.